Today we're going to talk about simple interest. But before we get started, we need to understand what some of these vocabulary words, these terms mean. So our first term is principal. Now, principal is the original sum of money. This could be money that we borrow or invest. Okay, the next word is rate. Rate is the simple annual interest rate, and it is a percentage. Okay, so rate is our percent. Time. Time is the number of years or even partial years, and we're always going to have it in years. Our next term is interest. Interest is the money earned on the principal invested or the money owed if the principal was borrowed. So interest is money that we can earn by investing, or it's something we pay in order to borrow money. The next term is the total earned. Total earned is the sum of the principal and the interest. Now, this may not make a lot of sense now, but we'll look and see what this all means here. So we have a formula for simple interest, and that formula is the interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. This looks a lot like our percent equation, except now we have time in here. So what that looks like is I equals P for principal, R for rate, T for time. So our formula for interest is I equals PRT. Now, something that we want to make sure we do is that T is always in years, and R is in decimal format. Okay, so T we always want to make in years, and R, our rate, is always decimal. Now, sometimes we'll ask you for the total amount, and the total amount is going to be our principal plus our interest. So if you borrow money, let's say $1,000, and you have to pay interest on that, it would be the original $1,000 you have to pay back plus the interest that you owe. Or if you invested $1,000, our total amount would be the $1,000 plus the interest that you earned. So the simple interest that an investment earns can be calculated using these formulas. So our first example, if $500 invested at a rate of 4% for 3 years, find the simple interest earned and the amount. So let's first start with the interest. So our formula is I equals PRT. And we are going to fill in what we know from this equation. So 500 is invested. Remember, money that is invested or borrowed is our principal. We have a rate of 4% and a time of 3 years, and we're finding the simple interest earned. So we do not know I. We do know P, which is 500. We know the rate is 4%, and remember that's always in decimal form. And we know our time is 3 years. So you can multiply 500 times 3 in your head, that's 1,500. And then 15 times 4 would be 60, and then you have $60. Because you lose the zeros because we have 2 decimal places. So $60 is our interest. But we also want to know the amount, the total amount. Remember, the amount is going to be the principal, the original principal, plus the interest earned. So the amount is $500 plus $60. So the total amount would be $560. So all we're doing is taking what we know from the problem, substituting into our formula, and solving. That's how you find interest. So let's look at our next example. Here's a real world example. If Joe earns $125 in interest, I'm going to go ahead and box that in. That's important information. In 30 months on money that was invested at 5%. Find the original principal. So I'm going to write my equation, my formula, I equals PRT. It says Joe earns $125 in interest. So that's going to be my I, 125. We do not know the principal. We're looking for the original principal, so I'm going to have P. 5% is my rate. That's 0.05. Now, 30 months. They gave me 30 months. And 30 months needs to be divided by 12 because I want that in years. So 30 divided by 12 is 2.5. So I'm going to do 2.5 years. So 500 times 2.5 is 125 thousandths. So I multiply everything on this side, and I get 0.125. And now I have a multiplication equation, so I'm going to solve that by dividing both sides by 125 thousandths. So I can divide 125 by 0.125, and I'm going to get 1,000. So $1,000 was my original principal. You can always go back and check your work. You can do 1,000 times 500 times 2.5 and check your work. Okay, number 3, Sue owes $50 interest on a loan of $500. If the money was borrowed for 2 years, find the simple interest rate. So she owes $50 in interest. She took a loan for $500, and it was a 2-year loan, and we want the rate. So I equals PRT. She had $50 of interest. That goes under the I. She borrowed $500. That's our P. We do not know the rate, and we know that the time is 2 years. So multiply everything. 500 times 2 is 1,000. Now I have 1,000R equals 50. Divide both sides by 1,000. I can reduce this down. 5 100ths reduces to 1/20th, or we know that 5 hundredths is 5%. I didn't even have to do the division there. Okay, example 4. Jack invested $600, so he's investing $600, that's our principal, at a rate of 3%. How long would it take to earn $18 in interest? So I equals PRT. We know 18 is the interest. So 18 goes here. If you're investing $600, that's our principal. The rate is 3%, so that's 0.03. And we want to know how long it would take. So that's our time. So we need to multiply 600 times 0.03, and we get 18. So 18t, got to divide, that would be one year. So it'd take him 1 year to earn $18 in simple interest. I'd like for you to try example number 5 on your own, and we'll check that in class tomorrow. Now here we have a little table, and this is just some extra practice to make sure you understand how to solve. So here we have the amount. That's going to be our total amount. That's going to be the interest plus the principal. So use what you know I equals PRT. Use your formula and fill in what you know and solve for the blank. So you would do 800 times 0.06 times 4, get your interest, and add it. On this one, you're solving for the rate, and this one you're solving for the time. And we will check this table in class tomorrow.